Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're gonna explore this bushy plant that's very unruly, very messy. I'll show you what I intend to do to make it a little bit, let's say, tidier, or at least to save a bit of space because as you can see, I have keikis growing everywhere. So let's navigate through this plant to let you know which orchid this is, and I'll let you know how I intend to actually look into this bushy plant and make it less unruly. I'm not showing my face here because I'm very unwell. I got some sort of cold, flu, I don't know. So I will avoid showing you my face today. However, I intend to complete this video, so I will keep to my schedule. Let's go. Which orchid is this one? So this is, I believe, I'm not sure. I bought this plant years ago, maybe 3 years ago at a garden center here in London. And when I found it at the garden center, it didn't have any more flowers. I suspect it is a hybrid between an epidendrum and a cyclia, which is called Epicyclia. I'm not sure. I will write it down here. I have no idea which one specifically it is because it has never bloomed for me. And why it has never bloomed for me, I think it's because not only now it's been here for years and I haven't reported, so I'm definitely not helping my plant. That's why it's pushing out cakes everywhere. But on top of that, this plant went through all of my infestations of pests, including thrips, and thrips destroyed many divisions of this plant. In my experience, epidendrums are very sensitive to pests, like dendrobians, for example. So thrips munch them down in a second. So if you have any epidendrums, let me know what happened to them. I had a miniature epidendrum before, and it suffered a lot with pests. So I think that's one of the reasons why it has never bloomed for me. I would love to see these flowers. I'll be very excited when it finally showcases which plant it is. I'm hopeful that one day it will happen. However, it's not happy. It's potted in a terracotta pot. I do have some orchids in terracotta. Not all of them are in plastic pot. I don't think that's the issue. I think it is doing well inside this pot. I honestly think that the issue was the fact that the mix is very old, the fact that the pests attacked them, the fact that it was not able to push flower spikes from the top because of pests, but I think it is receiving enough light. I can see some purple leaves. That's when they reacted to exposure, highlight exposure. They will have some purple tint here and there. So let's start to look into this plant and I'll let you know what I'm gonna do. So the first step here is to look at my plant. I would love to remove it from its pot, and I think that's the first thing that I would do before I decide what to do with all the keikis and how I can display this plant a little bit better. I will remove it from its pot. Because it is a terracotta pot, I cannot squeeze the pot and easily remove it. So I have to come from the base and start to pull it bit by bit. It was not very difficult. So it does have live roots inside the potting mix, but it has a ton of dead roots as well. So the next stage here is to remove all of this mix. It's wet because I did water this plant this weekend. So it's definitely wet. The mix is completely degraded. What's more, it spent a long time inside this potting mix. So I hope you can see. Just being gentle here and removing everything from the pot, slowly but surely. I will do the same thing that I do with all of my orchids and tend to keep the same pot, the terracotta pot, because I will not need to sterilize another pot, and this one adapted well to this terracotta pot. Not all of my orchids do. Some of them struggle a bit more, depends on the orchid. You can use terracotta or plastic pot with all of your orchid. You just need to balance the mix that you use and understand about your orchid. All of them has advantages and disadvantages. So do your research when you're choosing which pot you're gonna have your orchids potted in, and also check your preference. Some people prefer terracotta, others prefer plastic pots. There is no wrong or right. I know that plastic pollutes much more, but if you are reusing your pots forever, so then it's okay because you're not gonna throw them away into the landfill. I think it's more about being aware of the things that we are doing. It's always very messy when we are unpotting our orchids. The thing here is to be very careful to not break the good roots. This plant has a ton of good roots, but it does have a ton of bad roots as well. So it's a big mix of good and bad roots. So I need to be very, very careful and gentle here. As soon as I manage to free all of these from this massive wall of roots, we're gonna decide what to do with this plant. So it's full of old, very, very old growths like this one. This one I'm safe to actually remove from my plant and throw it away because it doesn't have any space to grow anything else, and it's not doing anything for my plant because my plant has a ton of new growths. So I can see that I have more dead roots than live roots. The next stage here is to actually rinse the root system just so I will be able to see what I have inside. So I will do that very quickly. I'll go to the sink and rinse everything, and I return so we can check these orchids properly. So it's a bit messy, but I hope you can see. What I will do now is I will do the same thing that I do with all my orchids when I'm repotting them. The difference here is that this plant, as I said, is very bushy, and there are things growing everywhere, and there are some old growths as well. So there are things like these two growths here, actually three. They're not doing anything for my plant. They are all dead. They are even mushy as well. They are rotten, so I can easily and safely remove these. Can throw these away. Usually when you have plants that are growing for a long time, you should look to the middle or to the lateral parts to check for old growths. So all of these old growths that are not growing roots, not pushing out new growths, all of them can go. The next stage here, look, I can separate that. I have more than one division here. I don't remember if they were all together, but now, since I have like a ton of things that are degrading here in the middle, some parts like this is completely dead, it's gone. So I can look into it and I can divide it. I have growths, I have divisions here with a ton of growths, and I have others with a little bit less. So I think I will keep it as it is right now. This one is coming out. If I touch and I see that it's coming out, I'll just remove it. It's sad because this one doesn't have any live roots. They are just coming out, so the rhizome that connects them is dividing them easily, which will help me when I try to place all of them together inside the potting mix. When we have something bushy like this, we have growths that are growing out of the pot, so it's climbed out of the pot. In cichlias, usually they are epiphytes. Epidendrums, they can be terrestrial, semi-terrestrial, or epiphytes as well, which I don't know what's happening here. But now, the next stage, since I divided my plant, which will help me, is to cut all of the dead roots. I don't need dead roots in the new potting mix, so I can remove some of these super dry, sheaths that are growing around the canes. With older canes, I can remove them because they can hide pests, and they are completely dry at this point, so they're not doing anything for my plants anymore. It's the same thing here. So like this growth here, actually, not only this, both of these growth here at the base, this one and this one, they don't have live roots. Everything here is dead, and they are not doing anything for my plants. So all of these can go. Just by removing some of these old growths, my plant will be already cleaner. It's not exactly clean. It's going to be tidier, and I will save some space as well, and I will be able to focus on the new growths to make sure they are being hydrated, they are being fed, they are touching the potting mix, and they are growing healthily. So now let's cut all of these old and dead roots. How I know these roots are dead, like I do with all of my other orchids, if the outer layer of the roots is coming out, the roots are coming out, we can safely use a sterilizer pair of pruners and just remove everything. Let's do this very quickly. Most of the roots here are dead, by the way, since I don't have any roots. And these grow, for example, these roots, they were not growing because they were not touching the potting mix. They were out of the potting mix. So the parts that were touching the potting mix, they were very old. That's the reason why it's important to keep an eye on our orchids and report them from time to time, because otherwise, specifically with orchids that are epiphytes, they tend to climb out of the pot. The rhizome will keep growing and growing, and at some point we might not have sections that needs to touch the potting mix touching the potting mix. So now I still left these roots because I don't know if they will help my plant or not, but I don't want to cut everything. So now that I have one section here, what's the next stage is looking into these keikis. As you can see, my keikis they have very, very long roots, so they are perfect for us to remove. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna just come here and we can safely do like so. One of the roots are, entangled in the plant, in the mother plant. Look, the roots is inside the leaves here. It's behind the leaves. Was just attached. I might break these roots because it's not gonna come out. Oh, look at that. Anyway, so the roots were very, very dry. Although this cake is being hydrated by the mother plant, even so they need some humidity to grow, and they were not being able to absorb all of the humidity. So this is free. Let's see what else we have in here. What's that? I have a long white root that's coming from this section here. So these roots should touch the potting mix, and I will try to make sure it does. And I have two super old growths that are here. They're not doing much for my plant, so I'm gonna remove the older section. So I will keep the newer section. I will keep the new growth with the long roots and the cake. Let's keep exploring the other sections that we have here. I have this tiny, tiny section here. This one, we have something that died while it was growing, so I can safely remove it. I have some live roots that I will keep. These are new division as well. They are very, very tiny. These came out as well when I was cleaning the plant. Let me just remove this black sheet. I don't need that. I'm not very happy with these roots, but I will let them be because these plants doesn't have other growths to support it, to hydrate it, or to feed them. So I will keep these roots. Let's see what happens. Now let's go. There are more, as you can see. So I'll do the same thing with this one. Keep cleaning. If you look at my plant, you're gonna see that I have a ton of pests signs. So I have grazings all over the leaves. I could remove the older growth, but I'll keep this one because I don't have many growths in this division, so the older growth can still feed and hydrate the newer growths, so I'll keep it for now. This is the largest division, and I'll do the same thing, just tidy up, clean it a little bit. And now let's check the roots. So I do have dead roots, but I believe I will have some live roots as well. So let's start going through all of the dead roots. It's very easy to see them. Some of them are very like blackish, brownish. The only disadvantage, and not the only, but I think one of the disadvantages of terracotta is that they will dry out faster. And in order to keep my plant hydrated, I need to keep an eye on the watering very frequently, just to make sure that the plant is hydrating itself and that I am not letting it dry, completely dry, before it gets stressed. Because otherwise the roots, if they are dry for a long, long time, and I think it happened to this plant, then you hydrate them, but they were dry, they will simply desiccate and the roots will be gone. So when they're dry for a long, long time, and then you offer water, a lot of water, suddenly they can desiccate in the process, or you can have root rot as well. So ideally, we shouldn't offer too much water. We should offer normal amount of water. If our plants were dry, we have to be careful because we can create another issue if you simply add a ton of water all at once. Uh-oh, I lost a new growth. It's gonna be fine. Anyway, this is gone. This has no roots. Let's see what will happen with that. This one has a little bit more live roots. This is the lucky, the lucky division. It's not ideal to have a ton of, new growths without a lot of roots. So now I sorted this issue. I also received more pesticides that I will add to all of the potting mix. So hopefully not only I have a healthier plant, but without any pests, which is the best thing that we can wish for. I'm not very happy with some of these divisions because they don't have roots, and then it's more difficult for them to survive without roots. We have to be hopeful that they will be able to push out new roots inside the new potting mix. Otherwise, I will have to remove some of these. I don't think all of them will survive. It's fine. I do have a ton of divisions. So now that I clean everything, or basically cut all of the bad roots, and I freed all the keikis, I will start my repotting, offering it a completely new potting mix, offering it new slow release fertilizer. Let me clean everything and let's repot it together. I have the terracotta pot here. I have some sphagnum moss, some orchids bark here. And let's see what I'll be able to do. I will add a first layer of moss, as I do with all of my orchids. Then I'm gonna grab here the bark and I keep layering it. I don't have many roots, so I don't have to worry how these roots will fit. However, let's start with some of the growths that do have some roots, like this one. The cake is with super long roots, and I think I have more. The future of my plant is actually relying on these ones, because these ones are the ones that are healthier. The rest of them, they don't have roots to feed them, so I am a little bit more like suspicious that all of these will actually survive. So that's the difficult part. Let's make sure that everything is here before I layer it even more, because I need to make sure now at this stage that all of the roots are touching the potting mix. This one kind of broke a bit, but hopefully it will do okay. This section here is a difficult one because I need to make sure that they are touching the potting mix, but that they are not completely buried inside the potting mix. That's really important as well. So now that I have here, let's see, 1, 2, 3, so we didn't do inside. I will start grabbing my other divisions and let's see how they are all doing. It's a ton of them. Even being super careful here to make sure that I would free and have more space, it's gonna be still very, very hard to pot all of this together. So now I need to make sure this is stable so I can keep adding the potting mix. And on top of this, and the thyme roots that were there, hopefully they will be able to now finally feed my plants. So what I did here was to add some slow release fertilizer. Why it's important for these plants to be stable when they are inside the potting mix? Because when we grab our plants to water, or if we remove from the shelving or to the windowsill, and the plants are not stable and we have some root chips or the roots are starting to grow, and if you move the potting mix, you can injure the root, and if you break the root chip, the root will stop the growing process. So it's really, really, really important that we make sure that our plant is stable somehow. Anyway, all this blob to say that we are almost there. Oh my God, wasn't expecting, was a massive repotting. Hopefully my plant is much happier now. I'll finish grabbing here. I think it should be okay. Not perfect, but okay-ish. So it's finally repotted. Let me take this out, so at least you can see only the plant in front of you. So that was my super difficult repotting. What's the next stages here? I hope you can see how tidier my plant is right now compared to how we began this video. It does have more space to grow all over the pot. On top of that, all of the keikis roots, they are touching the potting mix. All of the live roots are touching the potting mix. And even the little roots that were not growing properly because they were not touching humidity, they are now inside the pot, which is great. So now what I will do here is offer it some water because this mix is dry. So I will make sure that this plant is fully hydrated. I do have a pesticide that I am adding to all of my orchids. So this one will receive the same pesticides that other plants are receiving, but I think I will wait for a month until this plant is a bit more stable. So I will avoid having pests, and hopefully in the future this one will be healthier. Something that I didn't tell you in the beginning is with my process of cleaning pests, I add a ton of oils to this plant, specifically leaf shine. That was one of the reasons why some of the old growths lost some of the leaves and they were not healthy anymore. It's because of some of the past treatments. So now, hopefully, without having all of these on the way, this plant will be able to create healthier growths and will fill this pot with fruits. And in the future, we're gonna have beautiful blooms. So every time that you have a very bushy plant that are pushing keikis everywhere, I super recommend you to fully repot your plants, remove the cakes, and check everything that is inside. And always, always remember to repot your orchids when they are in the potting mix for a long, long time. Yeah, that was everything. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the like button, leave a comment down below. Let me know if type of content you'd like to see here. I do have a super thanks here as well and some affiliated links. But more than that, the most important thing is for you to actually subscribe to my channel if you can, if you enjoy this type of content. More than that, I hope to see you next time. Bye bye.